Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Championship Leadership Podcast. This is Nate Bailey. We got Lou Diamond in the house today with us. Another amazing guest that I've been referred to from my man Evan Money. Evan Money, one
Evan
of my favorite
Money.
people. Just met him, and he's already one of my favorite people in the world. And I know Lou and Evan have a show together as well. But Lou's just outside of New York City. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Totally an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Love your program and can't wait to get rocking here.
Awesome. Well, let's kick it off then.
Yeah.
First question. I know you've listened to an episode, so you might have been ready for this one. But Championship Leadership is the name of the podcast. What's that mean to you when you hear that?
It's funny. I equate the word leadership with the word connecting.
Yeah.
And great leaders are great connectors, or as I like to say, master connectors.
Uh-huh.
So to me, championship leadership is really like master connectors, the best of what connecting is all about. And that's what that means to me when I see it. And I also think of like trophies for some reason, but
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's interesting. I've gotten a number of very interesting definitions or of championship leadership and what it means to each of our guests here, but not someone that has said with connecting. So maybe talk about that a little bit more. What do you mean there when you say that you put those two together?
I think when you think of the greatest salespeople or business development people that are out there, great marketers that know how to connect a message to someone, or even great leaders who know how to connect to their people, the connecting is the common link across those type of communicators. And when you lead and you think about taking things and helping them to move onward and upward, you can't do it yourself. It usually is because of the great and powerful connections that you have. So those people who know what it takes to connect and know how to do that at a level that is not just, hey, how you doing? And, adding to your network or having this kind of tangential relationship. Those that really have great empathy, a good understanding of those that are around them, help to really step into the shoes of another and bring things together. Those are the people we follow. Those are the people that we aspire to be. Those are the people who lead us.
Yeah.
And so really, when you think about leading, you can't thrive as a great leader without really being a great connector.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you? You just said thrive, right? And of course, yeah, thrive loud. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of how you've gotten onto the path that you've been on, and a little bit more about what that path has been like, and to what you are doing nowadays.
Nate, I love sharing with people that I was put on this planet to work with the most amazing leaders, businesses, and brands and help them thrive through the power of connecting. Uh, a long time ago, I was one of those people that, you'd always run into even as a little kid that just wanted to bring people together, bring things together. I loved connect the dots. Somehow the art of what I did best was the ability to bring things together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that that's what I was really good at, I also realized how in helping others do that well, they also take things to a new level. And that's when I wrote the book, Master the Art of Connecting. I did a shameless plug for the listeners here. I just showed the book to
I love
Nate
it.
on the
Yeah.
video. And I'd worked in consulting throughout my career. I also had a career in, I guess what you call the digital agencies, the ones that built the first websites when the internet came to be.
Yeah.
And then I had a long career on Wall Street. All in those fields, everything that I did was always about connecting and helping people to thrive. And I was a very good salesperson, customer service areas, and helping to people grow in relationships. That's always been my thing. And maybe about like 10 years ago, this is going to sound really weird, I was probably doing financially the best I'd ever done in my career, but I wasn't really happy because I wasn't really doing what I was put on this planet to do, which is to help those other people thrive. And Thrive was born probably in my head I guess when I was like an infant, but it didn't really get, come to fruition until my mid 40s. And I realized helping people to understand how they can do this better and speaking about it, consulting with companies to really maximize the way that they strategize and the way they connect. So that's what I do, helping businesses do that, uh, top performers and leaders in a coaching and mentoring way to really get them to figure out how they can better connect themselves or to their organizations. And maybe most interestingly of late, really helping people that whole understanding of understanding what your brand is about and connecting that from a marketing and a sales perspective. It's always been in my sweet spot, but I just enjoy it more than anything else. It's one of those fun things within that. It spun off when I wrote the book. Truth be told, Nate, I was on a lot of podcast shows and a lot of TV shows and radio shows about it. And when I did that, I realized that connecting through podcasting, as you know, is something, it's one of the best tools out there to do that. Yeah. And it really does make people thrive. And as I like to say, it makes people thrive loud and really take things to that next level. So what I wanted to do was create a program where I featured those that are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions. So from what I'm doing is helping people do all of that. And that's what I'm centered around and what my business is about. And I guess what the podcast is too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did that transition happen? Like what happened? You're on Wall Street, successful, and then all of a sudden to leave that and to go and do what you're doing. Like, what was the story there?
Well, it did not involve running a 100-mile race. Just I did some homework.
No, come on. I thought everybody did that.
I think, Nate, it was a realization of two factors. One, that I felt that I had done as much as I could within the space I was in, and the space around me was also changing. Wall Street went through some real big bumps and bruises in 08, and that carried through all the way through for the next 5-6 years. But actually, I did very well in that window. But it was still changing. It wasn't the place that I came to originally. There was another factor too, and that was I was pulled into an office from the most senior person. Basically the number 2 person for all of Bank of America Merrill Lynch. That's who I worked for. I was a Merrill Lynch person. Then they combined the two together, and now it's one really long name. And the CEO, number 1 person, had pulled me in and wanted to ask me a few questions. And of course, whenever you get pulled into a meeting like that, Nate, you're always thinking, oh man, they're going to fire me.
Right.
But this was one of those things where I was almost wishing for them to do so. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't why I was being pulled in. I was being pulled in because one of those surveys went around. And the surveys, I had managed a lot of people. And they combine that with client-facing folks with the clients that you work with. And I had such high scores from internally and externally. And this person wanted to know why or what I was doing.
What's the secret sauce?
And what was the secret sauce that enabled me to have such great relationships with the people that work for me, and also such great relationships with the clients that I served. And that kind of lit a spark in me that said, Nate, hey, there's something in the way that I do this. And I guess I didn't really know that everyone else didn't know this.
Yeah.
I just figured this is how you do things. And when I wrote Master the Art of Connecting, it was inspired. I was kind of moonlighting towards the end of my career at Merrill. A friend asked me to come to a conference in Vegas, Nate. Went to the conference. He had been going there for 6 previous years. He had said this would be the last time he's going to this conference unless it turned out to be productive. And he wanted me to go with him because he knew I had this ability to connect from years past. We had worked together in consulting a long time before. We go into this conference. It's one of those 3-day ones, those exhausting ones in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Where either if you're not in a conference room, you're walking and you're probably passing by a casino.
Right.
Anyway, we inked 2 deals, and within 20 to 30 days after the time we were there, I think we signed a total of 7, another 5 on top of that.
Wow.
And on the flight back, the guy who flew me out paid for my trip to come out there to help him with it. Aside from him offering me a job, which I didn't want to take, but he did something else. He handed me a napkin and he says, you need to write down what it is that you do because I don't think you know it, and I think the world needs to understand it. That paired with what was going on with all the way I was working with people internally is what sparked, I guess, Master the Art of Connecting and led me to start Thrive and
Mm-hmm.
really to recognize that this is something that I could actually educate the world on and make this kind of my mission.
Yeah. That's a powerful story. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You also have the podcast. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. 500 plus some odd episodes. So, yeah,
500.
yeah,
Dang.
I think we hit the 3 million download mark or something like that. And I stopped looking at
That's
downloads.
incredible.
Wait, I stopped looking at it when we got to a number that was so big. I said, I don't even know what that means because I don't think I'm making any money off of it. So I
Yeah.
don't really know what that is. I think that I started the podcast in 2016. So I think a lot of that had to do with coming to market a little earlier. I also was using it as a marketing tool, truth be told, to drive attention and business to my consultancy at Thrive.
Sure.
And Thrive Loud has become not just a passion project, but really a passionate activity that has become core to the business. So much so, the business is Thrive, but all the marketing and URLs and everything has all become Thrive Loud because of it. And the ability to hear these stories of those that are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions, Nate, every single day is like the best education anyone can get. And I'm not just talking about the listeners, I'm talking about myself in the seat, being able to hear how people are taking things to a new level, decoding how they are kicking ass and thriving every single day. What is that secret sauce, to your point, that gets them to overcome really challenging hurdles or unique industries? And we haven't just done business folks in there too. We brought a lot of famous people, entertainers, media people, broadcasters, former professional athletes. I mean, the realm of who's been on the show is so crazy, but it's very much like myself because I'm that type of person. I have many different interests.
Yeah.
And it really has been an incredible forum for me, for the community of Thrive Loud, and for the brand. So it's been really fun. And it continues to be so. We keep evolving the show. We just started doing live episodes on Facebook and in YouTube, and we're hoping soon to be on LinkedIn as well. It's a really great way to recharge and do something that I do every day because I have to listen, like as you're doing right now. That ability to listen makes me a better consultant, a better coach, a better marketer, because I'm really hearing the tones, the essence, the passions, all those things that come out of it, which is why I love the podcast medium. So yeah, Thrive Loud has definitely been a pretty crazy program. We have 3 shows a week. We've got, I looked at it the other day. When we launch an episode, like we've had to change the website at times because there's been so much flow of the people there. We just had one,
That's
a
great.
guest we just had, Adrienne Bankert, who's on Good Morning America, was on a few weeks ago. Amazing person. She just came out with a book called Your Hidden Superpower. And it's about being kindness. That's her whole thing. And it was fascinating. And we had about the 20 to 30 minutes on the interview, but there was probably like another hour on bookended after we hit record because I just love connecting with people. So it gets me to do what I love to do most.
Yeah. Name of the podcast? It's
Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you. Who are some championship leaders that you've had inside of your life that have impacted you, and really more so, like, what is it about them, the characteristics that maybe that stand out to you, and maybe even have helped to mold and shape the leader that you are today?
So it's funny. I think family, friends, and colleagues is where I've always looked to when it comes to the leaders in my life. Family, I'm blessed to have had an amazing family. My parents are just some of the kindest people you'll ever know. My dad is the most likable person you'll ever see. In fact, I joke about that I don't think anyone has ever disliked my father. It's true. But I think so. A lot of the connecting that I have comes from that component to it, blended with some more robust intelligence, I guess, from my mom. So those would be
Mm-hmm.
two coaches that I look at. Although my mom is a coach, and we made a deal a long
You
time
see?
ago that we would not coach one another. So we just
That's a good
you
idea.
can't coach family. So that's one that I look to first as my dad. Yeah, it is too close. I'm seeing you
Yeah. Yeah.
discuss that. From a professional point of view, this is really weird. I actually have coaches that have been more senior than myself and junior to
Mm-hmm.
myself, because I learned from those that are younger. The more senior folks, there are some folks who I worked with on Wall Street, and there was a particular coach that I sought out. I care to leave that person's name out because that's the deal that we have always struck, as a little bit of keeping things behind the scene. But I do seek a
Yeah.
certain coach that we chat once a month minimum, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
more, to make sure that we're always doing that. And I think that's really important to really sharpen and laser focus. And on the younger side, there's a lot of people who are peers of mine that I look up to, because they've really just, they provide an energy to it. Two names that come to mind, I'll give them a shout out because they've both been on the podcast and they're good friends. That's Phil M. Jones, who's an amazing speaker. Go check out Exactly What to Say. And Phil is someone I aspire to, but he's also one of the quickest thinker, very strategic, and he helps you solve problems really quickly, gets you to ask the right questions that you really should be asking yourself. And my other very good friend, Jill Schiffelbein, who is the dynamic communicator. But Jill is my sounding board, and the one that when I say something, and has no fear to tell me when something sucks. Like I've done that, and she like I fucking hate that, and
Yeah.
you need that. You need that perspective, because she'll tell you why, because it's a good sounding board,
Mm-hmm.
and I respect her tremendously for it. Those are just two. There's many others,
Yeah.
but those
Of
are the
course.
ones that I'm close to. And I talked about from your friends, obviously the colleagues that you work with, but your friends. I have a core group of friends that I seek to. I'm going to give one shout out here because he was a work colleague too, but he's become more of a friend. That's my friend Niraj Garg. Niraj is a brilliant individual, and whether he knows it or not, he's always been a coach to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I think he speaks in that tone naturally. So when he
Yeah.
hears this, he'll laugh and be like, "You're kidding? You gave me a shout out?" So yes, I am. So I put that in there.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I've always thought as a coach, you definitely, you know, some people I think seek people that will tell them the things that they want to hear versus, what it's extremely important to have people that will tell you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear, right?
Yeah,
I think if you surround yourself with more people like that, of course, in a lovingly way and coming from the right place and,
right.
with great meaning behind it. But yeah, extremely important. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Um, what's the vision for you? I think I go to like Bill Belichick or Nick Saban, just these. And I'm not an Alabama fan and I'm not a Patriot fan, but I can respect the game, if you will, and just the fact, the greatness, how they're able to, at such a highly competitive profession, the best in the world, continue to rise to the top of almost every year. They clearly have a vision that others don't, and then also just this courage to take action on that.
Yeah.
What's the vision for you, or the impact that you want to continue to make over even just the near future here?
It's funny you mentioned those too, because I did see that wonderful special that they meet once a year to have that
Yeah.
conversation, and they're both
Yeah.
doing that, and it's pretty cool how they probably they get technical, they get strategic. I love that thinking, and they're always winning.
Yeah.
So it's funny because the goal for me is really selfless in a weird sense, and that is that I know I thrive when my clients are. And the more people I connect to and see them take things to a new level means that I know I'm doing my job right. And that really means by getting my message out to as many people as possible during this period of COVID-19 or whenever this airs, at the time we're recording this in late
Yeah.
June. uh, I know that everyone had lots of shifts and pivots that they did. I hate that word pivot, by the way. I played
Especially now,
basketball. I
right?
played basketball growing up, and pivot meant you had to like spin around on one foot without
Yep,
lifting it up. It
right.
means you really weren't leaving the point you're on.
Yeah,
But it is more of an adjustment, and you're always moving forward, and you're always looking to change. And look, I had been helping people work virtually. You're seeing my workspace in my office here, which has a lot of green backgrounds because we put
yeah,
some good presentations here. Uh, but I've been helping companies learn how to thrive in the virtual world, and that became a direction that we went through. Uh, I seem to have a niche in helping, ironically, but not really, financial services, marketing, and technology companies, because that's where I came from
yeah.
most effectively. And I really fit well helping sales and marketing connect, almost become better marketers. Yes, pun intended there.
I like it.
The sales and marketing piece. Because, but it has to be given with one much more important thing, and that is with the support of leadership. A long time ago, I used to try to navigate and work with just a sales or a marketing operational group. And for me, if it's not working from the core and the top of the companies, it doesn't work because, and that's actually where I can impact the most change. And I found that I guess I have a likability factor about myself, some kind of way that not only enables people to connect with me, but just a really good understanding. And I think coaching and podcasting and all of that has helped me do that. So what I envision and what I see is getting more involved at that strategic levels with a certain group of companies in that industry and helping them grow and move onward and upward over a longer term. That's really where I've been doing it. I did a tremendous amount of speaking, Nate, all over the country before COVID hit,
Yeah.
and it's great. I love it, and the pay is good when you get it, but it's kind of exhausting. So in a
Hmm.
weird way, COVID-19 was a great way to come back to the core of what I do and really help the businesses that need it the most. So the short-term goal is to continue to do that. The longer-term goal, I think, is to even grow the podcast platform to another level where we're actually able to really capture some of the features for a lot of these clients. There is something to be said about the message that they want to connect. My clients need to do it, and helping them do it in a way that uses their voice to do so. So there's something there. So stay
Hmm.
tuned on that. That's a
Yeah. All
little
right.
hint as we're working on something that may be able to help others. But yes, that's the big goal is keep helping people thrive onward and upward, my friend.
I like it. The cliffhanger. I like
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
you open with a lot of music into the show, and I think that's actually the cliffhanger. Like, what's coming? When's the
Yeah.
show about to start?
Yeah.
Did he get
Um,
Justin Timberlake permission to play this music?
yeah. Yeah. I get some. I get many compliments on
I
the
like the openings.
intro.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what's a turning point for you, or a critical moment in your life, that kind of that fork in the road moment where, had you not made the decision you did, life would be very different. I think there's a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that listen in to this podcast, and many are in that moment. I just had, I think we all have many of those moments, but a few that really stand out. I just went through one myself. And it's powerful to hear others and their stories and how they made it through it, to inspire others to take action as well. Is there a moment that comes to your mind that you can share with us?
Well, obviously, it's coming on Nate Bailey's Championship
Oh,
Leadership
yes.
podcast. I mean, this is the pivoting
Clearly,
moment, right? This
clearly.
is
Yes.
the launch pad.
This is the catapult. Yes.
Uh, it's funny because I think I've asked that question too on our show. Like, what was the turning point? What was the moment? And I like to think of it kind of like a naval battleship cruiser. This thing doesn't spin on a dime, and I
Yeah.
think our turning points are actually more like periods of longer turns that take you to get there. If I could, I think I pinpointed earlier that that conversation with that senior leader
Yep.
at B of A and Merrill, and was one, and then that trip to Vegas was another. But there was another point that goes way back, and sometimes we look away from what we do best because other people tell us to, or we're supposed to do something else. Long time ago, I was working and I was really unhappy. Like, those stages when you're working nonstop in a certain industry and, there's really not as much pay and you're working for someone else and isn't really what you're doing, but you're doing it to fill your resume or whatever that might be. And a lot of people in this new era, because of technology and the ability to be so entrepreneurial, um, might not get that chance as much as maybe you or I used to.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you, but
Yeah.
everyone had to pay their dues at certain points. And somewhere in paying their dues at that point, I had a point where everything just crumbled down, and I started realizing I had to eventually get myself to be able to be at the point where I can be my own decision maker, make
Mm-hmm.
my own path. And that started probably like in my early 20s. I knew I didn't know what it was, but I, at that point, set myself on a quest that when I found out what that was, when I knew exactly what it was, that I would drop everything and do that. And that those two events that had happened were kind of like a calling. And that became how I connected to myself. That's how I recognized that I was a master connector and needed to tell everybody about it, and that I could actually make a living doing it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't 100% sure I could, but I knew that I had to follow that. And if your listeners and your entrepreneurs who are out there, fail often. If you don't fail, you do not succeed. And I have failed more times than I care to. Failed this morning on
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And I love those moments of failure because that's how you pick up and grow and say, okay, don't do that again. Let's do
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah.
So yeah, that pivotal moment is more of a big ocean turn, but I think I could put it down to one day where I knew I needed to get to a spot where I can control my own destiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
thank
where I
you.
would put it.
Yeah, that's a big moment for many, and
Yeah.
many never make that decision. And maybe because they're not sure they can do it right. And when you said that, it's just like, well, there's really only one way to figure it out. And truly, like I always believe that it always works out. Like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, you're gonna figure out what does, and you're gonna
You
keep
know, Nate,
moving.
if I could expand upon this just a
Yeah.
little, those who aren't they can't figure it out, they're probably blocking themselves with some fear. And my big one of the muscles is having a fearless mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of being a master connector. And that is not being void of fear. That is knowing what your fear is and how to move through it into courage. So that feeling of hesitation of I might not, be successful in this, or man, I don't know if they think I'm going to be able to do what I need to do, have that imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not worth what it is. If you don't have that thing, you just have to know how to spin it on its head. And if you do it, you're going to succeed in those flows. You're going to stumble, but you will succeed with it. And the feeling of moving through that fear literally makes you look better, makes you feel better, makes you act
Yeah.
better, and actually draws people to you.
Yeah.
So it's part of the key of what I call your connecting core. And those are the muscles you need to flex when you want to connect and really move onward and upward.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Thank you. What, as we wrap up here, one last question. If there were one or two things you could give to the listeners that if they were to implement today would help move their life forward today, what would that be?
I've done this a couple of times, and I've juggled back and forth as to which option to give to this question.
Sure. Yeah.
It's the way I sign off the show, Nate. Be brief, be bright, be gone. I say be brief in that if you're trying to figure out a decision or a communication tool, the shortest way of communicating it will always be most heard and most understood.
Mm-hmm.
Be bright, kind of think about what that brief statement is you're going to do, but make sure that you're trying to make an impact and shine in that moment, like take advantage of it. And be gone doesn't mean, drop the mic and run away. Be gone means really move in that direction to the next thing,
Yeah.
the next big thing, and move onward. So be brief, be bright, be gone.
That's great. I love it. Thank you. What are a few ways that we can follow you and what's going on in your world? And you get the podcast, get the book. Let us know how we can find those things.
So the easiest way to find me, Nate, is everywhere in social media is at Thrive Loud, ThriveLoud. ThriveLoud.com is the website. And that's also where you can find the Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond podcast, which I think is going to have Nate on it at some time this summer or something like that. I don't know if
Oh,
we
snap.
I don't think we've locked that down yet,
I don't think so,
but we got to get on that. He's a busy
I would love
man,
that.
listeners.
Yes, yes, yes,
He's
yeah.
busy like DJing and making sure that his guests look good. And we both like to get his haircut. So,
Busy, but not too good. So yeah, I would love that. That'd be
I
great.
guess we should also give a shout out, since we mentioned my new partner in crime in a joint fun podcast. If you want to listen to,
Yeah,
go listen to Diamond Cuts Money Talks. That's DCMT podcast, and that is where Evan Money and myself get together and talk about life leadership in the NFL and other sports too. And we've had some rants, we've had some really good stuff. What we really try and do is we hit each other with a trivia question, some timely topics in football, because there's really no other sports going on at the time we're recording this,
right.
and timeless topics. Like we'll rank great players, great things, and we've got some good music in there. And Evan is incredibly passionate about football, and I just love like pushing his buttons on it. So the two of us get to have a lot of fun. So definitely go listen to it.
Definitely go listen to that. Yeah, that's an incredibly powerful combo right there, and that topic is right down my lane.
We're going to call the show the Bald-Headed Duo, but we controlled ourselves. Just kidding. We love you, Evan.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking time, and I'm glad we made it work. And I had an incredible time. So thank you, Lou. Appreciate it.
No, it's really an honor to be here, man. Thanks, and best of luck to you, man.
You too.